Well, it's officially 3 weeks, 3 weeks and let me say 3 weeks, 2 days or so since The Little Mermaid, Disney's live action remake, hit cinemas. And at this point, it's pretty much clear to say that this movie is a massive flop and it is just a complete and utter disaster. Even before this movie came out, I said this is going to go terribly because Disney went out of their way to do everything possible to turn people off from this movie. And I mean literally everything. When it wasn't blatantly race swapping Ariel, they were attacking the fans, calling them racist, calling them misogynist, calling them this and the other. So whatever it is they could do, they had all their Twitter stands and others come out and try to defend them. I mean, even when the movie came out, from what I heard from some people who went and see, they said it was okay, but not anything to write home about. You had people who did Die Hard say it was the greatest movie ever. Well, it's not. It was nowhere ever going to be like that. It's clearly going to flop. And now we have reached to the point where we're getting information and it has pretty much just gone down the toilet at this point. That's it, just really and truly flushed down the toilet at this point. Getting to this article here from Bounding into Commerce. I have a few things to go over in this video, so let me get into it. The Little Mermaid declared a massive flop for Disney by box office analysts. YouTuber and box office analyst OMB Reviews declared the Walt Disney Company's The Little Mermaid is a massive flop for Disney following the film's second weekend at the box office. In a video looking at his past weekend's box office numbers, OMB Reviews opened The Little Mermaid dropped 58% domestically and is still making next to nothing internationally. Now, keep in mind, the majority of the money that Disney's Little Mermaid is making is domestically because overseas they're making no money. And I'm telling you, I live overseas because I don't live in the United States. I'm in Trinidad and Tobago, as I said before, and there is not a lot of hype for this movie. When it came out, most people went to see it out of curiosity. I'm not going to say that some people didn't go back, but it's not making the kind of money that they would expect. And that's just Trinidad I'm talking about. When it talks so globally, that's a whole different kind of water that I'll get into in a little bit. I'll continue on here. And let's just say that film is essentially guaranteed to not only flop, but also be a massive flop for Disney and could ultimately be one of the worst performing movies in their entire history. And I, for one, am not upset because, like I said before, Disney has done this to themselves. He argues now, of course, this is all on the fact that many people, when looking at the box office, are failing in the comparisons, especially to Aladdin, to remind themselves that the ticket prices back in 2019 were very different than what they are today. And also, of course, as everyone loves to always hear, and as everyone always wants to get triggered by, the rate of inflation has changed as well. Yes, nobody's saying so. Okay, nobody's doubting that. All right. According to the numbers, The Little Mermaid box office gross fell 58% in its second weekend at the domestic theaters to just 40.6 million. It grossed 95.5 million in its 3-day opening weekend during Memorial Day weekend. The total domestic box office now sits at 186.2 million. That's not good at all because that 95.5 million in its 3-day opening weekend, they were expecting it to make more than that. Almost double it. They were expecting that to make, and it didn't happen at all. The Little Mermaid did add to its international total with Deadline reporting it brought in 42.3 million in its second weekend. The film only brought in 68.3 million in its opening weekend internationally. The total international box office sits at 140.5 million. The film's global gross sits at 326.7 million. It's gone up a bit by that. It's gone up a little more now. It reportedly had a production budget of 250 million, meaning the film is still in the red, and as OMB Reviews notes, it does not look like it will be turning black anytime soon. Now, you always have to double that 250 number, because it's usually they usually don't put in marketing and things like that. Now 250 is only what we know. It could very well have been more, because they may have had to do reshoots and all that kind of thing, so it could have been more. And the marketing for it is pretty much almost double that amount. So like I said before, this movie needed to make something like about 800 to 850 million to even make a kind of profit at least, or God forbid, just break even. If it made like about 750 to 800, it might have broken somewhere even, but realistically speaking, it's not looking like that's going to happen anytime soon. While comparing the film to Aladdin, which released on Memorial Day weekend back in 2019, I would suspect, based on the tracking and based off of the percentage we're looking at this movie, maybe being able to get to 300 million domestically. Maybe we still have to wait and see if that's ever gonna happen. But ultimately, 300 million domestically might sound decent on paper, especially when you compare it to a film like Fast X. But look at the international numbers. The Aladdin movie back in 2019 made $788 million domestically, he continued. So far, The Little Mermaid has only made 140 million, and that means that you're looking at best case scenario for domestic, maybe 300 to 350 million best scenario. And you're looking at international best case scenario 250 million. Is that being generous? I think you add these numbers up, that doesn't get you to 625 million, which is its break-even point. So yeah, not a good look overall for The Little Mermaid going forward, he declared. Later in the video, he breaks down the film and all kind of stuff and one and the other. He talks about how, the movie had to do certain things that have a strong performance. Then goes on to say, let's assume that the 326 million is 70% of the entire box office for The Little Mermaid. That means that the end result, so it's a very likely scenario that the movie would be 466 million worldwide, he explains. Best scenario, so let's say it doubles its money, but best case scenario would be 650 million. That is a best case scenario. We are already seeing in the legs of the movie. For this movie, it is not holding to that extent. It is not doubling, and it is not going to double what it has made so far. But even if it did make 650 million, would be a minimal profit, and according to some metrics, be a financial loss. It really depends on whether you can break even is 2.5 or 3 times the budget. Yeah. So he talks about, so even if it didn't make money, it would still not be nearly enough to make up for any discrepancies in either direction. Yeah, because it's not making anything. Now, here's the important part I wanted to get to. He then shared his prediction for how much the film will make globally. What is most likely to happen? Somewhere around, I would say 500 million is probably what this film could expect to have, especially based on the drops. And we're seeing, with I think the best case scenario, the movie actually being the average of around 550 to 560 million, right? So what does that mean? Because of its massive 250 million budget, that means right now I'm projecting the film to lose around 100 million, but could make as much as 17 million again, right? So it's already talking about how this movie is projected to make far less than it's actually supposed to. The bottom line and the serious of this movie is that this movie is most likely looking to lose something like over $500 million. That's a massive hit for Disney, because they promoted this movie to be something fantastic, and it's not doing that. But now, like I said earlier, right? Like I said earlier, they did everything wrong in promoting this movie. They just use racism as a shield throughout it. And they've also gone out now to look to attack China. If you look at this article here, the Little Mermaid tanks in China and South Korea amid racist backlash from some viewers. You're out here saying that this movie is not making money because of racist backlash. No, China came out and said very openly that they are not going to support Disney's blatant racist agenda. Whether that's want to race swap classic characters and then put it out there and then act like oh well, okay, you're supposed to love this character or else you're a racist. No, They're not supporting it. They don't like it. And it's not just them. And the fact of the matter is that you could talk about racist backlash from some kind of thing. People will go and watch what they want to watch, what they like. They will go and watch it. But you're calling racism on this. You understand? But when you look at movies like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, look at its audience and viewer score. Understand me? This movie is making a lot of money. People enjoy it. And, you know, it stars Miles Morales. He's a black Spider-Man. You understand me? But no, that's not racist there. There's no review bombing, no online trolls, no nothing. You understand me? But the minute this movie starts to tank because people see what Disney is doing, no, racist backlash from some viewers. Meanwhile, there are some sites out here still trying to shill, like Collider here saying Little Mermaid sails past new milestone at the global box office. Movie is swimming along at the domestic box office but struggling to stay afloat overseas. And do you know what this big milestone that they're talking about that this movie has done? Remember, get to the part. They talk about how the movie is struggling and it's crappy and all sort of nonsense. The big milestone is that, this movie has made more money than some of the other Disney live action movies that have been massive flops. Movies like Dumbo, Alice Through the Looking Glass, Cruella, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Maleficent, all of these things, all of these movies, some of them were well, I thought Sorcerer's Apprentice was mildly interesting. I wouldn't say it was fantastic, so I could understand why it made that kind of money. But the rest of these movies were not really big, massive hits with anybody. So how are you going to use that as some kind of leverage to say, well, okay, the movie done better than that? I even saw one post saying that, this Little Mermaid movie has made more money than when the original Disney animated movie came out like 30-something years ago. How is that a comparison? That is like saying that, what you could have bought with $100 30 years ago, you could buy the same thing with $100 today. It doesn't work like that. This movie is a massive flop. And they're saying it here in this article that this movie is a massive flop for Disney. It's not going to make any kind of money. Like I said, it's poised to lose something like over $500 million, and it's not getting any better. Yes, I think it reached like about 400 and something million now, but it's barely crawling along. This movie was never going to make it because Disney knew exactly what they were doing. They knew who they were marketing it out to. And like I said before, they see these people, who this new audience who they seem to want, support nothing, have no money to support anything. And even the ones that do are a very small minority. But Disney is determined to die on this woke hill. And I, for one, am glad when I see them losing because of this nonsense. You should have never made this movie. You should have never done anything like that. But because you did it, you have nobody but yourselves to blame. Let me know your thoughts on this massive flop for Disney. You have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. If you like the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell. Be notified every time I put out a new video. And I shall see you all next time. Take care.